You've spent your whole life looking at things, looking at people, looking at rooms, looking at problems, memories, dreams, faces, phones, skies, bills, mirrors, old photos, new fears. From the moment you wake up, the world throws itself in front of you like a movie that never asks permission to begin. Light hits your eyes, sounds arrive, thoughts start talking before you even invite them in, and somewhere inside all of that noise you say, "This is my life." But pause for a second, not in a dramatic way. Just pause, like you would pause in the middle of a sentence because something suddenly feels more important than the words. While you're aware of the room around you, the screen in front of you, the sounds moving through the air, the feeling of your body sitting there. Can you sense the one who is aware of it all? Not your name, not your history, not the version of you that has plans, regrets, opinions, and 100 tabs open in the mind. Something quieter, something behind the face. Most people miss it because it's too close. That's the strange part. Consciousness isn't hiding somewhere far away like a secret locked in a temple. It's not at the top of a mountain or buried inside an ancient book. It's the very thing reading these words right now. And maybe the biggest plot twist of human existence is not that you have consciousness, as if it's some little feature added to your body. Maybe the plot twist is that consciousness is not inside your life. Your life is appearing inside consciousness. You've been taught to experience yourself as a person, moving through a world. That sounds normal because everyone around you speaks that language. My life, my body, my thoughts, my past, my future. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need a name to answer when someone calls you. You need a body to walk through the door. You need a mind to remember where you put your keys, although, let's be honest, the mind doesn't always do a great job with that. But beneath all of those practical layers, something deeper is being overlooked. There is the character of your life, and then there is the awareness of the character. The character has preferences. The character gets offended. The character wants to be liked, understood, successful, safe. It has a story, a childhood, a tone of voice, a certain way of reacting when life doesn't go according to plan. But awareness is different. Awareness is not tense. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't enter the room hoping to be approved of. It simply knows the room is here. It knows the feeling in the body. It knows the thought before the thought becomes a whole drama. Think of a stage. On that stage, scenes change constantly. One day there's romance, another day there's conflict, then confusion, then a little victory, then some strange Monday morning where everything feels slightly heavier than it should. The costumes change, the lighting changes, new characters enter, old ones leave, some leave quietly, some slam the door on the way out. But the stage remains. The stage doesn't become the argument, it doesn't become the celebration. It allows both to appear. In the same way, your thoughts, emotions, memories, and circumstances are moving across the foreground of experience. Awareness is the still background that lets all of it be known. And once you begin to notice that, even gently, something in you relaxes, not because life becomes perfect. It won't. Not because the mind never worries again. It probably will, sometimes over the smallest things. But a gap opens, a little breathing space. You realize you are not trapped inside every thought that appears. You are not required to believe every emotional weather pattern that passes through you. You can feel sadness without becoming sadness. You can feel fear without building a house inside fear. Awareness lets you sit with life instead of being swallowed by every wave it sends. That's where the story starts to shift, because the old way of living is being completely identified with the foreground. Something happens, and immediately the whole identity contracts around it. Someone praises you, and you expand. Someone rejects you, and you collapse. A plan succeeds, and you feel real. A plan fails, and suddenly you question your worth. It's exhausting, like being a leaf trying to control the wind. But when you begin sensing the silent presence behind experience, you discover there is more to you than the leaf. There is also the sky in which the wind moves. Once you start seeing the foreground clearly, you notice something almost uncomfortable at first. Everything there is temporary. Everything. The body changes, the face changes, the people around you change, your beliefs change, your desires change. Even the things you once thought would make you happy forever eventually become normal, or they fade, or they demand maintenance. Life is constantly placing things in your hands, and then, sooner or later, asking you to open those hands again. A house is built, and one day it needs repair. A friendship feels unbreakable, and then distance creeps in quietly. A dream comes true, and after the excitement settles, another longing appears. Even happiness behaves like a visitor, not a permanent resident. It arrives with warmth, sits with you for a while, and then leaves its cup on the table. Unhappiness does the same, although it tends to be less polite. The mind doesn't like this. The mind wants to freeze the pleasant moments and delete the painful ones. But life doesn't work like a photo album, where you only keep the flattering pictures. There's an old saying often linked to wisdom traditions. This too shall pass. Simple words, almost too simple. But if you really let them in, they cut through illusion like a clean blade. Your pain will pass. Your excitement will pass. Your embarrassment will pass. Your current identity, the one that feels so solid right now, will also pass through many versions of itself. You've already been many people in one lifetime. The child version of you is gone, yet somehow still held in memory. The teenage version is gone, maybe thankfully. The version of you from 5 years ago had worries you may barely care about now. So what exactly stayed? Something has been present through all of it. That's the part worth noticing. The scenes changed, but the knowing of the scenes remained. You were there when the body was smaller. You were there when certain dreams mattered more than anything. You were there when your heart broke, in a way you thought would never heal. And you're here now, aware of a new moment, a new breath, a new arrangement of life. The content changed, but awareness kept quietly shining behind each chapter. When this realization becomes more than an idea, difficulty loses some of its power to destroy you. Not because you become cold. Actually, the opposite can happen. You may become more tender, more human, more available to life. But you stop confusing surface movement with your deepest being. If something painful happens, you still feel it. Of course you do. You're not a stone statue pretending to be spiritual, but pain no longer reaches all the way down into your essence. It moves through the foreground. It may shake the body, shake the plans, shake the personality. Still, behind it, there is a silence that cannot be burned down, betrayed, insulted, or taken away. That silence is not dramatic. It doesn't shout, "Look at me, I'm enlightened." It's humble, almost ordinary, like the quiet hum of a refrigerator you only notice when the house gets still. Awareness is like that, always here, but covered by the noise of becoming, achieving, defending, explaining, comparing. And maybe the reason so many people feel spiritually homesick is because they've been living only in the foreground, trying to build permanence out of things that were never meant to stay. Now comes the strange part, the part where the whole human story turns upside down. Consciousness is the most intimate fact of your existence, yet it's also the hardest thing to explain. You can doubt almost anything. You can doubt your memories. You can doubt your beliefs. You can even doubt the world, if you want to go deep into philosophy over a very strong cup of coffee. But you can't doubt that awareness is present, because even doubt has to appear inside awareness. Mainstream science often treats consciousness as something produced by the brain. The idea is simple enough on the surface. The brain is complex, neurons fire, chemicals move, and somehow experience appears. Somehow a soft, wet physical organ produces love, grief, music, imagination, color, meaning, memory, and the felt sense of being alive. But when you really sit with that, it becomes deeply mysterious. Matter produces something that does not look like matter. A jelly-like structure inside the skull somehow gives birth to the taste of mango, the ache of loneliness, the beauty of a song, and the feeling of looking at the moon in silence. Nobody truly knows how that happens. Not fully. There are theories, of course. There are scans, studies, models, and brilliant people doing careful work. Brain activity clearly relates to conscious experience. When the brain is damaged, perception and memory can change. That matters. But relation is not the same as origin. A cracked radio may distort the music, but the radio didn't compose the song. A broken screen may ruin the image, but the screen didn't create the entire broadcast. So the deeper question remains open, quietly waiting behind the confidence of modern language. Does the brain produce consciousness, or does it receive, filter, and translate consciousness into human experience? Some of the greatest scientific minds sensed that matter might not be the foundation. Max Planck, one of the fathers of quantum theory, famously said he regarded consciousness as fundamental and matter as derivative from consciousness. That statement is not small. It's not a decorative spiritual quote you hang on a wall and forget about. It points toward a radical possibility. Perhaps consciousness is not a late accident in a dead universe. Perhaps consciousness is woven into the root of reality itself. Perhaps what you call the physical world is not the opposite of consciousness, but one expression of it. Imagine walking into a theater and becoming so absorbed in the movie that you forget the screen. You laugh, tense up, maybe cry a little, and for 2 hours the story feels real. But none of the images can appear without the screen. Fire appears on the screen, yet the screen is not burned. Rain appears, yet the screen is not wet. A war appears, then a wedding, then a quiet field at sunset. The screen allows every image but remains untouched by the drama. Consciousness is like that, but even this metaphor falls short, because consciousness isn't an object behind experience. It is the knowingness in which every object appears. Most of what you are is invisible. That sounds strange at first because we're so used to treating the body as the whole person. Someone sees your face, your clothes, your posture, your expression, and they say they saw you, but they only saw the doorway. They didn't see your private memories. They didn't see the sentence you almost said, but swallowed. They didn't see the childhood room still hidden somewhere in your nervous system. They didn't see the dream you've never explained properly because the words always felt too small. Even if someone could look inside your brain, they wouldn't find you sitting there like a tiny person in a control room. They might find neural patterns. They might identify damaged areas. They might see activity related to speech, emotion, movement, memory. But they wouldn't open a little drawer and find your love for someone. They wouldn't discover a molecule labeled first heartbreak, or mother's voice, or the day everything changed. The invisible part of you is not less real because it cannot be held with tweezers. In many ways, it's the most real part of your life. Every thought you've ever had appeared invisibly. Every emotion moved through an inner space no one else could directly enter. Your deepest self has never been fully visible to the eyes. Even your words only carry fragments. Language is like sending paper boats across a river, hoping someone on the other side understands the ocean they came from. And still, you know yourself from within, not as an object, not as a thing, as presence, as the one to whom experience is appearing. That changes how you see death too, not in a cheap way, not as some easy answer that removes grief. Grief is real, loss hurts, bodies matter, people matter. But if most of what you call you is already invisible, then perhaps existence is far stranger and wider than the material picture suggests. The body may be the instrument through which consciousness plays its human notes. When the instrument is damaged, the music may distort. When the instrument falls silent, the question remains, was the music created by the instrument, or was the instrument a temporary way for the music to enter the room? Ancient traditions have been pointing at this for a long time, though often in different languages. The Upanishads speak of the self not as the personality, but as the deep witnessing presence behind all changing experience. Mystics, philosophers, poets, and contemplatives kept returning to the same strange doorway. Know the one who knows, not as a concept, not as a belief to argue about online until everyone feels worse, as a direct recognition. Before you are your role, your name, your success, your wounds, your plans, you are aware. And awareness is not a small thing inside you. It may be the vastness through which the entire human experience becomes possible. A realization like this doesn't ask you to abandon your life. That's important. Sometimes people hear spiritual ideas and imagine they have to become detached from everything, like the goal is to float 3 inches above ordinary life and stop caring about rent, relationships, or whether they replied to that message. But true awareness doesn't make you less human. It lets you become human without being imprisoned by the role. You still handle responsibilities. You still make choices. You still love people, work, create, clean the kitchen, answer emails, make mistakes, apologize, begin again. The difference is subtle but powerful. You no longer need the foreground to define your entire being. Success can come, and you can enjoy it without worshipping it. Failure can come, and you can learn from it without turning it into a life sentence. Praise can feel good without becoming your food. Criticism can sting without becoming your identity. Living from awareness is like sitting near a river instead of being dragged under the current. Thoughts continue flowing. Emotions continue rising. Life continues doing what life does, which is basically surprise you, humble you, stretch you, and occasionally make you wonder who wrote this plot. But instead of believing every movement is absolute truth, you begin to watch, not coldly, not from a place of distance, more like a loving witness. You become intimate with experience without drowning in it. A person who lives only from the foreground is always negotiating with impermanence. Please stay, please don't change, please make me feel complete, please prove I matter. But awareness doesn't beg life to become still. Awareness is stillness. So when you touch that dimension in yourself, even for a moment, you stop asking the world to carry the weight of your entire existence. People can be loved without being turned into life rafts. Achievements can be pursued without becoming gods. Pain can be felt without becoming a prison cell. And here's where the plot twist becomes practical. Consciousness is not just an abstract mystery for philosophers and physicists. It changes the way you move through a normal Tuesday. It changes how you respond when someone misunderstands you. It changes how quickly you return to yourself after disappointment. It changes how you sit with uncertainty. Instead of trying to win every battle in the foreground, you begin remembering the background, the silent presence, the clear space, the part of you that has watched every version of your life appear and disappear, yet somehow remains.